One man masterminds the largest gold mining scam in history. He outwitted scientists, analysts, and the world's leading investors. He turned a penny stock into $1 billion scam and made himself millions.
The biggest gold rush scam in Indonesia, orchestrated by Michael de Guzman. So who is Michael de Guzman? Michael de Guzman is a Filipino who went through normal school just like anybody. And he went through high school, he did his graduate studies, and finally graduated. He became the best geology. However, just like any normal graduate, he never got a proper job. He was just hustling here and there. So one day, he decided to use his geology knowledge. And this was the knowledge that areas that have extinct volcanoes have there's a likelihood that they may have higher deposits of gold. So he sat down and came up with a plan. Since he didn't have a good reputation, he had to look for someone who had a good reputation who could convince investors. So he looked out for John. John was a well-known geologist. And then he informed John of his plan and asked him to look for an investor who ain't gonna ask so many questions. So John, in his research, he found David Walsh. David Walsh was a Western Canadian. He had been an investor before in the mining industry, so he had that knowledge about mining. So he called in on David and told him about the plan, about what they have discovered, him and Michael in Indonesia. And David agreed. So Michael and John decided to fly in David from Canada to Indonesia. You know, he was given that VIP treatment just from the airport to the hotels, to the meals they were taking, and the wines they were toasting in that lounge while discussing on the discovery of huge deposits of gold in Indonesia. Just before then, Michael de Guzman had created a company, Bre-X company, and this was the company that they wanted David to invest in. And so once David was in Indonesia, David agreed to the plan and he decided to invest. After they agreed on the investment plan where they distributed their shares and percentage, David flew back to Canada and waited for proper lab results on the gold deposits that these two gentlemen claims. So this is what Michael de Guzman did. He went to the ground. He actually had exclusive rights in that area. It was a huge area, he had exclusive rights. So the first thing he did in this scam is getting ignorant guys who could dig in the gold or the core, and then could take this gold to half of it could remain in the soil and half of it could be taken to the lab. So while at the lab, he had very few guys who didn't question anything. So at the lab, he used his his golden ring and did what we call salting. You salt your food, you salt your food to have that tasting. This is what he was doing in this because he knew there were no gold deposits in that area or Indonesia. So he could get those what has been excavated or what has been dug out from the site, and then he could use his weighing machine and ensure that he grind his gold into very small particles, and then he could salt the core that had been excavated from the site. And then he could call in to John. He could call John, the well-reputed the guy who had a good reputation in geology, and then inform him about the lab result that there were astronomical deposits of gold in Indonesia. And then John calls David, who was in Western Canada, and says, wow, that's a great news. Then he proposes to, to list Bre-X in the New York Stock Exchange. Listen, guys, these guys, he just received news about the lab results that there are huge deposits of gold just from what Nani is faking, what Michael is faking. He's faking through salting his, his gold ring, and then he's being informed that there are huge deposits, and then he decides to, list the company. So after listing the company, of course, there were investors and so much people were excited. Some people invested their life savings, some people invested their, so many people were interested in this company because during those times and during the 90s, gold was something big, something everybody wanted to be part of because, it was used to as a monetary value. It was used to value items. So after the investors started coming in now, Michael de Guzman suggested that he needs more money so that he can do more excavations to be sure of the gold deposits in that area. So he kept on, the guys kept on buying into the shares, and the company grew from zero to billions of shillings, to billions of dollars, I mean. So after that, once the company was growing and the area was being expanded, so many excavators were on the site, people were in and people got excited. During that time, Michael and John started cashing in on their shares, what we call cash options, the cash option in their stocks. So it's just normal, like anybody, like, once you are in a company, you start a company, the company is growing so well, you need to at least start feeling that money, probably buy one thing here and there, and probably this was a plan anyway. So there were huge deposits. So afterwards, so many companies got interested. But before then, this guy was invited to the New York to speak to their shareholders, their shareholders about the huge deposits. Michael and John flew to Canada, and they gave that speech, the best speech about the whole thing and how they plan to do with the gold mining in Indonesia. And then Michael and John flew back to the country and they started more of digging in. But then something happened whereby you remember John had to send a lab technician to confirm what Michael was doing, whether it was true or whether it was false. I remember Michael had employed guys whom he could manipulate and tell them what to do, or ignorant guys who could not know the exact aim or purpose of these guys gold mining. So John flew in the lab technician to go and confirm the results, that because the salting had been, the gold ring was used in salting, so he had to look for other ways of distributing those gold in those what was the core that had been dug from the site. So he went to guys in surrounding who do what we call panning, gold pan, the gold that is found in rivers. Those guys you see panning, like they use that bowl to get that gold from rivers. But then when he brought the gold back, when the lab technician came, he realized that a gold which is found in the cores, in mining, in those extracts, has different texture and is different compared to that which is found in rivers. But then Michael had a very good explanation about the whole thing, why that the gold that was found in that course is similar to that river. So the lab technician was convinced, and the call was made to David Walsh, and he was excited. The shares, the news became news, and more people were now investing in. So once he was that's why he was called to go and talk about it in New York, talk to the shareholders. So then the government became aware of this. The government also wanted to be part of it. Come on, guys. So the government now started limiting Michael de Guzman's company, the Bre-X company, about their space. They actually was reduced by 50%. So the company also wanted to be part of this gold scheme. Once the company threw in their companies, and they wanted also to do the extraction, the mining, they wanted to be part of this gold mining scheme. However, remember, Michael knows that there's no gold there, right? So while in New York giving that speech, the shareholders, he receives a call from the government being told, "Hey, buddy, the gold you've been talking about, our guys can't find it. I mean, what do you mean? Where's that gold that you're talking about?" So Michael is flown back to the country. Now, this is now my imagination. He's flown back to the country, and at the country, he's supposed to go to the site and talk to those guys who are extracting and give them reasons, because they were just doing extraction just to the near area to where he was doing it. So once he came back into the country, that's Indonesia, and then the government took him into an helicopter. That's what the story is, by the way. In an helicopter, and there is a huge forest in Indonesia. I don't know, rainforest, by the way. So while it was actually flown in a military helicopter. So while going back to the site, then the pilot realizes that there is no Michael in the plane, that he had just thrown himself out of the helicopter. Come on, guys. He was thrown out. He threw himself. Probably they say he committed suicide. But in my own thinking, I mean, once the pilot realized that, it goes to the government being told, they tried to do the search. It took 3 to 4 days to find the body. The body had already decomposed. It could not be told who he was, But then they said Michael de Guzman was dead. Yeah, the scammer. But then this is my own thinking. Once he came back to the country, he talked to the government guys and told them, there's no gold there. This has been all along a scam, and you got to help me. You got to help me. Probably they looked for a dead body in a mortuary. They bought a dead body, and once they took a dead body and they were flying through the forest, and remember the rainforest is big, trying to locate the body. They took even 3 to 4 days finding the body, which was badly decomposed anyway, which could not identify. I could not identify whether it was Michael de Guzman. So probably Michael de Guzman could be alive today and enjoying some of the money scammed some of his investors. So the company, the guy, that's how Michael de Guzman scammed those guys. Fake company, fake gold deposits. He cashed in on the stocks that this guy has invested in, and he was one of the biggest billionaire, the biggest gold rush scam in Indonesia. So what we learned from this scam is that the scammers always promise dreams, but they steal our reality. So you remember when the lab technician went back, he also realized that this goal is a bit different, but Michael was able to convince him that sometimes this happens using his geology. So if you like this video, I want to appreciate you watching till this end, and I want to invite you to subscribe my YouTube channel. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this story,